Yo, what is going on, YouTube? I'm your host, Calvin Domingo, aka Steezy A. Smith. And I know this has been circulating, not just the rumor mill, but the whole breaking news mill for pretty much the entire day. Not only did the Seattle Seahawks trade away arguably the most beloved athlete in Seattle sports history and Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos for, in my opinion and in my estimation, an underwhelming package, relatively speaking, of course. Bobby Wagner was also released, and obviously that marks the end of an era, as now there are no roster holdovers from those Seahawks Super Bowl contending teams in the early 2000s. And real quick, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but what were y'all doing when Russell Wilson was traded? Because I don't know about you guys, but I was planning on pulling an all-nighter last night. I ended up still coming to I guess my sleep deprivation around 8 o'clock a.m. Pacific time. And the original intent was just to take a nap, right? I wanted to take a little 20 to 30 minute nap and then kind of get back into work. And then 3.5 hours later, I'll wake up and there's breaking news. My phone is blowing up all over the place. I'm having people calling me, texting me, group chats, Twitter, Instagram messages, all that bad stuff. And people everywhere telling me, yo, how you feeling? Russ is out. Has anyone checked in on Steezy A. Smith? Blah, 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 blah. And like I said, I know there have been a couple of people that have gone viral for posting fake news and, for scamming people and claiming that this happened or that happened. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. And so I didn't really put a lot of credence into what people were saying up until I started watching some ESPN. And then I started seeing on Fox Sports, everywhere on YouTube, all these different sports media outlets were talking about, oh, who won the trade? Russell Wilson, Seattle, Denver, and whatnot. And so for me, it didn't really hit until at least a couple of hours until after the trade actually was beginning, to process itself. Yes, I'm heartbroken. This is honestly the worst day to be a Seattle sports fan. As my man Guru said on my live stream early today on YouTube at Steezy A. Smith, sometimes you got to take a step backward, maybe even a couple of steps backward to eventually move forward. And so, yes, this is the end of an era. Yes, I truly feel like Seattle didn't get as much as they probably could have. I'm actually excited, about the future. And Russell Wilson, he has in the past flirted with other teams. And so, for speaking metaphorically, if I had a girlfriend and she put out a list of, if she listed 4 dudes last year that she would be willing to entertain if she ever broke up with me, and if she's telling me that in the middle of the relationship, then it's just like, yo, like, I think the wheels are starting to fall off already. I think you start to see the signs already. And so with Seattle trading Russell Wilson, I'm honestly not as devastated as I was when the news first broke, just because the more that I think about it, yo, this guy Russell Wilson has been flirting with teams. Even if that hasn't happened, throughout the entirety of his career in Seattle, it was very prevalent last year. It was breaking news. And that just went against Seattle's MO. Him leaking stuff out to the media. That's not how Seattle operates. That's not how they do business. And so for Russell Wilson to do that, it definitely left a bad mark. It definitely left a bad taste in Seattle's mouths. And so, the more that I start to think about it, I'm not as devastated, and I could start to see the rationale behind Seattle, making such a move. I understand Pete Carroll's the oldest head coach in the National Football League, but you got to think that he has some sort of a plan in place, even if it's to kind of, I know they'll never admit this, but maybe Seattle's looking to tank this year and then maybe selecting, somewhere high in the draft next year and going after a CJ Stroud or a Bryce Young. I don't know what's on Pete Carroll and John Schneider's mind, but what I do know is that if I just had to offer my 2 cents, this is a very underwhelming package for Russell Wilson. I understand he's not coming off a career year. He's coming off what a lot of people would categorize as a down year, but this is still a top 6 to 7 quarterback in the National Football League. This is still an elite quarterback in the National Football League. This is still a franchise quarterback, and those do not grow on trees. Quarterbacks, especially franchise quarterbacks, come at a premium. And so what happened to the minimum asking price of 3 first-round picks? Seattle instead had to settle for 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a 5th, Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and Shelby Harris. And in the process, on top of giving up Russell Wilson, Seattle already had 6 picks in the draft this year. Now they got to give up an extra 4th? Why? I understand it's only a 4th round pick, but why did Seattle have to give up an additional pick when they didn't have too many to begin with? And yes, you might tell me that, oh, but they're essentially replenishing the cupboard, right? Because of the 2 firsts, the 2 seconds, and a 5th. But why did Seattle even have to attach a draft pick to begin with? Yes, he's 33, but 33 in the NFL is the new 25. Maybe that only applies to Tom Brady, but Drew Brees has played into his late 30s, early 40s. Aaron Rodgers is looking like he's going to do the same thing. We've seen guys last past their mid-30s. And so I think it's safe to assume that Russell Wilson still has another 4 to 5 strong years left in the National Football League. And if I'm Seattle, okay, maybe Jerry Jeudy's off limits. Maybe if Russell Wilson's to waive his no trade clause to go to Denver, he wants Jerry Jeudy to stick around. He wants a Cortland Sutton to stick around. He wants a Javonte Williams to stick around. He wants, let's say, a Tim Patrick to stick around. He wants all those pass catchers. Okay, that's totally understandable. But why was Patrick Surtain, cornerback from Alabama, who had a fine rookie year last year, might I add, why was he not on Seattle's mind? Doesn't Seattle have a need at cornerback? Maybe that would negate the need to sign a DJ Reed if you were to have traded for a Pat Surtain who's still on his rookie deal. What about a Bradley Chubb? Why couldn't Seattle actually attack needs? Younger players, superstar prospects. I like what Noah Fant brings to the table, but he does not look like he's going to be a transcendent tight end. He does not look like he's going to be a superstar tight end. He might have potential. He might hit 1,000 yards, but I don't necessarily see star written all over him. Shelby Harris had a career year last year. 6 to 7 sacks. He's not going to move the needle. Look, I might not be as devastated as I was to begin the day, but this still has got to be one of the worst days in Seattle sports history. Maybe it's not to the same or on the same magnitude as when our Seattle Supersonics, you can see the jersey back there, when our Seattle Supersonics moved to Oklahoma. Maybe it's not as seismic as that move was, but this definitely has to take the cake at number 2. I mean, the best quarterback in Seahawks franchise history, one of the greatest Seahawks in all Seahawks history, and Bobby Wagner. These guys are gone. It's the end of an era. And now we're stuck with the oldest head coach in the league, and Pete Carroll, who many feel is antiquated. I don't necessarily subscribe to that notion. And John Schneider, who people feel like he just doesn't necessarily have it anymore. Like, yeah, he got lucky with some of these guys that he ended up finding late in drafts. But what about all the first rounders that he's whiffed on? And Pete Carroll also deserves blame. I'm not trying to absolve him. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Obviously, the Broncos won the trade. They're getting the franchise quarterback. They're getting the best player. But if you were the Seattle Seahawks general manager, if you were John Schneider, would you have made more of an attempt to acquire a Pat Surtain, a Bradley Chubb, maybe even a Tim Patrick? Like, why did they have to settle for guys that don't have star potential? I don't understand. Like, the picks can only move the needle so much. Again, the draft is a crapshoot. There's been so many busts. And I'm not blaming the players. Obviously, it's dependent on situation, fit, coaches and whatnot. But is this really how Pete Carroll and John Schneider tend? Is this how they intend to end their tenures in Seattle? By rebuilding? I don't know, but I don't even necessarily know if these guys deserve the benefit of the doubt at this stage in their careers, just because the Seahawks are 1-4 in the playoffs since 2017. Take this into perspective. The Jacksonville Jaguars have more playoff victories since 2017. It's been 5 years. I was in high school. I was a senior in high school about to graduate the last time the Jacksonville Jaguars were winning playoff games. That was 5 years ago. So I better hope Pete and John, they got something planned, because it's going to be a long couple of years here in Seattle and in the Pacific Northwest. Who knows? Maybe Deshaun Watson comes into play, but this has been your host, Calvin Domingo, a.k.a. Steezy A. Smith. Again, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Should Seattle have pushed harder to acquire more talent? And yes, they lost the trade, but would you have traded Russell Wilson to a different team? Would you have maybe, I know he's a free agent, but would you have enticed a Teddy Bridgewater to sign a short-term contract and then be subsequently traded to Seattle. I don't know how feasible that is, but I think for me, anything over Drew Lock would have been ideal. But let's see. I know Denver didn't really give him much of a chance. He was surrounded by defensive-minded head coaches. He did have some talent as far as the weaponry goes, but who knows? Maybe he's able to unlock his potential here in Seattle, especially if DK and Tyler Lockett were to stick around. But again, if you guys could please, don't forget to find me on YouTube, primarily on YouTube, but also on other social media platforms at Steezy A. Smith, SteezyASmith. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night or a great rest of your day, however, whenever you're choosing to tune into this. Again, it's your boy, it's your host, Calvin Domingo, a.k.a. Steezy A. Smith. All glory to God as always. Amen. Steezy out.